Kathryn Gibney is principal of San Pedro Elementary School in San Rafael, California. Approximately 96% of San Pedro's student population is Latino, with the largest cultural groups coming from Guatemala, El Salvador, and Mexico. Prior to her position as principal of San Pedro School, Ms. Gibney served as K-5 summer school principal, new teacher advisor, and K-8 lead literacy coach for the San Rafael Elementary School District. Ms. Gibney holds a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Spanish and multiple subject teaching credential from the University of California, Irvine, and an administrative credential from San Francisco State University.
I very much appreciate you holding this hearing and inviting me here to testify today. My name is Kathryn Gibney, and I am principal of San Pedro Elementary School in San Rafael, California. My school serves 400 kindergarten through 5th grade students, 96% of whom are Latino, with the largest cultural groups coming from Guatemala, El Salvador, and Mexico. These children and other students in our district have suffered severe trauma as the result of ICE raids in the low-income Canal neighborhood of San Rafael. In the pre-dawn hours of March 6, 2007, federal immigration officers pulled up in white vans in front of 3 large apartment buildings. Suddenly, without warning, agents identifying themselves as police stormed the 3 buildings and began pounding on doors, attempting to serve 30 warrants for people who had prior deportation orders. In the process, these agents used the warrants as rationale to sweep the neighborhood, sending ripples of fear throughout the community. They shone bright flashlights in the faces of young children who were still asleep. They handcuffed parents in front of their children and took them away, threatening that they would soon be back for others. They left behind them a trail of fear. Traumatized by the vicious nature of the intrusions and terrified to take their children to the bus stop, many families held their children at home in hiding. Other parents, recognizing that school might be the safest place, enabled their children to go to school. One child, whose father had just been taken away, was told by her mother to pack some essentials in her backpack and leave it by the door so that if, when she returned home, she found no one there, she could go to her aunt's house, just in case her mother was also seized and deported. Imagine this child's frame of mind when she left for school that day. Later that morning, my staff and I first learned of these events as clearly shaken and crying students exited from school buses and blurted out their stories of what had happened earlier. On a day when we were scheduled to administer state exams, 40 students were absent, 7 times the normal absentee rate. Throughout the day, muted and trembling voices asked teachers if agents would come to school and take them away. What would happen to their mommy or daddy or aunt or uncle, and what would happen to them? During the next 2 weeks, the situation escalated as ICE threatened to hold more raids, as parents continued to be afraid to leave their homes, even to take their children to and from the bus stop. And as this fear took its mental and psychological toll on children, on families, and on teachers and staff who worked long hours to ride buses and ensure that students were released safely into the care of an authorized adult. The San Rafael community responded with speed and compassion. The community launched efforts to discover the facts of what had taken place and express opposition to the way in which these raids were implemented. In one detailed response, ICE leadership in Washington, D.C. responded that, although they avoid entering schools, places of worship, or hospitals, they would do so if the situation warranted it. Consequently, we could no longer assure our children that schools were absolutely safe. In San Rafael, on May 8, 2008, agents stopped a father walking his daughter to school at Bahia Vista Elementary School. Since agents were not able to communicate with the father, the 2nd grade daughter had to serve as translator between her father and the agents, who ultimately took him away. The impact of these raids has been devastating. Absentee rates have soared, test scores have dropped. Students who do make it to school remain distracted as they worry about whether their families will be at home when they return. Families lose sleep at night as they worry about possible home interrogations. Families whose breadwinners have been seized are struggling to survive. Even when family members were successful in proving their right to be in the country and were allowed to return home, the memories of children remain. The memories of U.S. agents banging on the doors of their houses at dawn, shining flashlights in their faces, and taking their parents away in handcuffs. At San Pedro School, mental health services have been substantially increased to address the ongoing fragility of our students. Many of our children are American-born, full-fledged citizens with a right to a quality education and the rights guaranteed to all American citizens. They are America's children and the nation's future workforce. Success in schools depends on a three-way partnership between students, schools, and families. The current environment strains the family component. There must be a better way to execute a federal mandate in a more humane manner. Thank you.